Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Movie Chatter. I'm Eric. I'm joined tonight by Lou and Robin. Lou, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty well.
All right. And Robin, how are you doing?
I'm sorry, you didn't introduce me properly. I was the most amazing host. Do you want to start
We're the
over?
most amazing host. We're just starting. You are the most amazing host. If you want to do it in past tense, I'm okay with that. But
I am doing fantastic.
all right. We are glad that you are here with us today. We are going to be starting our pseudo Halloween coverage. I say that because it's not really specifically Halloween, nor is it really going to be a lot of traditional horror movies. It's the stuff that we non-horror movie fans enjoy, or at least I think we enjoy. We're going to find out in a moment whether we enjoyed it or not. But we are going to be covering Us by Jordan Peele. Best known for Get Out. Actually, probably best known for
Comedy.
Key and Peele. Yeah, the long-running sketch comedy show they had on, it was Comedy Central, right? Must have been.
Don't know.
I feel like it was ages ago now that went off the air. Kind of missed that show. Anyhow, that is what we are going to be covering tonight, but I have a question first. I have two questions. First, Robin watched another movie that I want to talk about a little bit. And then she said that she had a story to tell and it had something, she had big news.
Big news.
And then I said, is it a boy or a girl? And then she said it has to do with an elf. And then I kind of didn't want to hear anymore. And then she said Tim, her husband, who is one of our hosts on the network, is involved. And then I really didn't want to hear anymore. But what I'm so scared to ask. What's going on?
I'm so excited. I very recently built my first Lego.
Yeah.
Met by total silence by my co-host. Thank you both. Thank you.
I'm expecting there's more to the story. What Lego did you build?
I built my first Legos. It was the Santa's Elves Workshop Clubhouse. Something Clubhouse.
Oh, that sounds good.
I don't know what the name of it is, but it's sitting in my office.
So it's a Christmassy thing.
Yes. It's a Christmassy thing, and it can't be
cool.
out in the general population of the house yet because it's, as we all know, it's not Christmas. So it's sitting in
October. How long do you have to wait?
I know, right? So
it's less than 3 months to Christmas. I think that it's okay to put up Christmas decorations.
No.
No. Not till after Thanksgiving. But
Lou. Bye, Lou. So why?
you do have to get through Halloween.
Because Halloween's an amazing holiday.
I agree.
Yeah. Why can't you dress up as an elf for Halloween?
So this was very exciting for me because
Just
I have
saying.
watched, I have sat for hours and hours and watched my dear husband, who I love very much, build these things. And I never ever bought one and built one. And then I did. And now I'm ever so slightly addicted. So now we know where all of my
Wow. So this is going to be a thing for you now.
It was really fun.
Yeah, that's good.
It was a big deal.
All right. So why don't you? So first of all, I'm very proud of you. Welcome to the wonderful world of spending way too much money on little plastic bricks.
Yay.
You're addicted now.
I was very excited that I had some left over too.
Are you supposed to? Isn't that kind of like fixing your car, Lou? You're not really supposed to have any left over?
I don't know. There's always pieces left over.
Oh, I fixed my car. I had this thing left over. The carburetor? Yeah, I don't know what it is. Just throw it over here.
You know, I got a bag full of stuff here that was left over. I don't know.
Okay. You keep it handy on your desk?
Well,
I kind of feel like I'm losing out here. Like I don't have any Lego stuff prepared at all.
Yeah, but that's one thing that bothers me about Lego. I mean, they're so good at making sure you have all the pieces, right? I mean, I've never been short a piece.
And yet you're always, as you're assembling things, you're always convinced you're missing a piece as you're doing it.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
It's not here, I can't find.
Yeah.
But why are there extra pieces? I mean, I'm glad I'm not short.
Because that's how they make sure that you're not missing a piece.
Yeah, but
so wonderful.
But it doesn't make sense if you're missing. If they had duplicates of everything, I can see that. But no, it's like I get one random, red round piece or something. It's like no.
I can't believe we're on MovieChatter and we're discussing Legos and Christmas and not movies.
But it was like this monumentous occasion,
Mm-hmm.
and it was wonderful. And it wasn't like that. No, that is not an image of my Lego.
It's pretty. It's
I like
pretty
that, though.
Christmassy.
That's
especially
that's
if you put antlers on it. Oh, Lou, could you put antlers on it?
Ooh.
I could. There's little buttons on the side.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you've so got to put antlers on that.
Must.
I can work on that.
Okay, Carrie, D&D elves. Okay, I'm okay with that. You could take the D&D elves or the Lord of the Rings elves and make them Christmassy. I mean, come on, you could do that. Leather armor, bow and arrow, green hat with the little poofy ball at the end.
Not Legolas. No. Mm-mm.
Why not?
No.
Legolas gets into Christmas. You can't tell me he doesn't.
No.
Not buying it. Robin,
That's
what? Moving along, for the sake of our audience who desperately wants us to get on to any other topic that might be movie related, what have you seen recently?
I literally, after this movie that we are covering tonight,
Which you just watched today, right?
I did.
Okay.
I watched it right after we discussed where to get it. I did. I watched it a couple of times, and then when I was finished with it, my hubby was watching Happy Death Day. So that was the thing that happened. It was double header. I'm not sleeping tonight. For all of you folks out there, please feel free to entertain me this evening because I won't be sleeping. And clearly neither will my hubby or my puppies. I don't like scary movies.
So what did you think?
I do them for you.
What did you think of Happy Death Day?
I liked it.
Yeah?
I actually did like it. I was a little confused at the end. I really wanted it to. I was just a little confused.
End. And there's a sequel.
Yeah, and I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I haven't seen the sequel.
Yeah. So.
Lou, have you seen Happy Death Day?
I have not.
Well, it's that time of year. Maybe we should cover that on MovieChatter. I don't know, but either way, you should watch it.
It's on my list. I'd like to. Yeah.
It's not scary, and it's actually good.
I think
it's better than. What was the one we watched?
I think it came out on Valentine's Day.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like Deadpool. It's a Valentine's movie.
Kind of. No, Deadpool is very much a romantic love story. He even says in the movie that this is a romantic love story, whereas Happy Death Day, not really. But it is a good date movie, at least based on date movies that I went to see back when I was a teenager.
So is there a sub genre to time travel called rom travel horror?
No, but I am very glad that you brought up the subgenre of time travel, because there are subgenres of time travel. There's the time loop. There is
that would be this.
Yep. And there is the divergent paths. There's the multiple timeline thing, and then there's the correcting the primary. There's a singular timeline thing, like Back to the Future. Lou, I can't believe that she even brought this up.
I know, but
Lou's smiling. Lou's like, "Oh yeah, let's go."
I'm happy with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was being sarcastic, and I don't know. Maybe YouTube
We don't care.
Doesn't
we knew. We don't care.
Translate sarcasm.
Yeah, no, we got it. We just didn't care. We're like, if you're stupid enough to bring up that topic, yeah, we're going all in. we're diving right off the diving board into that one.
There it is. We're there.
So I watched a couple of things. I watched Enola Holmes on Netflix.
Really? Was it good?
It was extremely okay. It was extremely okay. Like, it was solidly, definitely, without a doubt, it was okay. It didn't suck.
Wow. High praise.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm being serious. It was fine. I wouldn't say don't watch it, but like don't get your hopes up either. But definitely, like if you're looking for something to watch, it's a perfectly good choice. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rant and rave about it or anything. I'm going to come back to that one. And I finally watched Psych 2. Lassie Come Home, because I'm a big Psych fan. But I'm looking back. I've been keeping a log of things I've been watching, and I'm trying to go back to. There was one movie that I saw that I will probably torture you guys with at some point. I think. Here we go. Deep Murder.
Deep Murder.
Deep Murder.
Tell me it's a rom-com.
Make sure there is. Is there romance?
Don't.
There's really not. There tries to be, and it fails. And it's obvious that it fails at trying to have not that the romance fails, but the movie tries to have romance and the movie fails at the trying. So make sure your kids aren't in the room and go watch the trailer. It stars Chris O'Donnell. You guys know who Chris O'Donnell is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's the setting for the movie, the genre, if you will, is basically the old 1980s late night films on Cinemax, right? The skin flicks. You kids out there, you're going to have to ask your parents because this doesn't even exist anymore. There's like porn and then there's family content and there's like nothing in between. But when I was growing up and Lou was in college, there was this whole, I know, right? That was almost subtle. There's this whole different category.
Being subtle.
I tried. I failed. Whole different category of movie that was like not really porn, and it was like just regular R-rated, but it tried to be like really raunchy, but they also had to kind of tone it down. Anyway, so it is done in that style, but it's a murder mystery where there's this like just horribly stereotypical, absolutely ridiculous. It hits every single ridiculous stereotype and just what's the word? Not parody, but satire, I guess. Okay. Satirizes it.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then there's a murder that happens in this mansion where everybody's like messing around with everybody. And then this guy shows up as the detective to investigate, completely incompetent detective. The stereotypical hot babysitter who about a third of the way through the movie realizes, wait a minute, why do I work here? There are no kids here. Who am I babysitting? What am I doing here? Who actually gets smarter as the movie goes on until she gets killed. Spoiler. The movie is just, it epitomizes every possible ridiculous thing that could possibly happen in the movie. And it was bad in all of the right ways. It was like the worst movie ever. So check that out. And then I went to see Tenet.
Went to?
I
Wow.
can't catch anything now, at least for a while until the
like?
antibodies wear off. And I don't even know if or how long that'll be. But like I've got this window right now where I need to go see every movie I can in the theaters while I've still got, like, while I'm clear. Right?
Lou, have you been to like a real old-timey theater with like a screen and
no, I have not.
Me either.
So
I haven't been anywhere.
this
was I should have put the pictures up for the stream. It was so it was on a weekend and it was relatively sparse. The theater I went to is a brand new theater, so everything was very, very clean. And they limited the amount of people they could have in the theater. They made sure you had to reserve your seats. So when you reserved your seats, it automatically blocked off like all the seats around you.
Nice.
You were supposed to be wearing your mask anytime you weren't eating or drinking. Not everybody did as expected, but still the social distance, like I was definitely 6 feet away from any other group in the theater, more than that. So the experience was fine. Like now, if I hadn't already been sick, I still don't know that I would have done it. But if you guys are out there looking to see a movie, I highly recommend Tenet. It is absolutely mind-blowingly
I can't
good.
wait to see it, but
however,
well, I can't wait because I'm not going to see it.
I'm going to make you feel much better about that, Lou.
Yeah.
The audio mix was so bad. Now I've been to movies before where they have the sound system cranked up really loud, and to the point where literally, I swear, literally one of the people I was with, their right ear started to bleed. We went to the manager of the theater and said, "Do you have any clue how like destructively loud the volume is in there?" To the point where I said, "You need to go into the theater in the next showing and listen, and you need to fix it." And then this is a theater I went to like literally twice a week. And so we weren't on a first name basis or anything, but I'm sure he recognized me and I recognized him. I went back up to him the next time I was there and I said, "Hey, I was the guy that talked to you about that sound issue." And he said, "Oh yeah, you were right. We got it fixed." Like, it was bad. This was not the case with Tenet. Tenet, there was a mixing issue, and it has been all over the internet. It's not this theater. They didn't just have the volume up too much. There are, you know how you get those big, like the bass booms and your chest kind of vibrates a little bit. Okay. So imagine a sequence where that boom, that bass note, if you will, is basically sustained for like 3.5 or 4 minutes. And so people don't know this. When you go to loud concerts or you're exposed to loud noise and it's you hit those really low frequencies and your chest vibrates, it can actually cause bruising inside your lungs. Not common, but it can happen. This was so loud with that, my throat vibrated. I've literally never had that happen before. 3 times in the movie, my throat was vibrating briefly, but I'm like, okay, this is too much. And you couldn't make out some of the dialogue for the bassiness of it. So I'm hoping that by the time it hits home video, maybe they'll have corrected that, or maybe your home theater systems won't have quite the professional level subwoofer that the theaters do. Or if you do, you can just adjust it before you watch the movie, because it makes a difference. Like, it was an incredible movie. Christopher Nolan absolutely at his best, and you walk out of the theater and the first thing you talk about is the audio. That should never be the case at a Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah. So that's how bad it was. So for those of you who want to see it in the theaters and have been, "Oh, do I push it?" No, don't. It's not worth the risk, first of all. And second, if you think maybe it's worth the risk, it's not worth the risk because your ears are going to bleed. So just wait, see it at home. I hate to say it because I want to support the movie, but your safety's first anyway. And then even if it weren't for COVID, I'd almost say just wait and see it at home anyway.
Interesting.
Lou, have you seen anything recently?
Aside from what we're watching tonight or talking about tonight, no.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about what we're watching tonight. We're talking about Us. This is, I'm going to close this other app I've got on my iPad here so I can get back to the chat too.
We were talking about Us. And hey, guess what? I messed up my name in YouTube channel.
We finally get back to talking about Us, and now we're talking about her.
Carrie helped me get there, and now Carrie. I messed it up. So
Carrie finally watched
help me fix
Julie and Julia.
Julie and Julia.
I heard that was good. Not really my type of movie, but all right. Well, Carrie,
sorry, we're talking about Us.
You help Robin. You help Robin with her problem. The people listening on audio can't see me winking, but that's okay. So this is directed by Jordan Peele, again, best known for Get Out. We all liked Get Out, right? We covered that. Was it last year or the year before on MovieChatter?
Yep.
Yeah.
Incredible movie, right?
Yep.
So this is his second movie. And this one, I kind of feel like it didn't have as much of a message. And it was there was a kind of a message to it about, the duality of man, about the nature of one's self, about the haves and the have-nots, etc. But I kind of feel like this was much more about the action ride than Get Out was. I liked the movie. I don't think it was quite as good as Get Out, but I did enjoy it. Lou, what were your thoughts on it? Did you like it, not like it?
I liked it although I didn't think it was as good as his first movie. I also had some issues with some of the things they asked us to believe in. As far as kind of, well, just forget about how that would have happened and just go with it, which I can do, but it got a little bit.
The suspension of disbelief.
Sometimes.
I don't know why this bugged me. The one thing that really bugged me was she had like the ice pick or the scissors or something hitting it through the windshield of the car. Safety glass on cars, it doesn't puncture like that. It spider webs and
although there is one thing,
thing.
I want to know who built that escalator, because I want that guy building everything I own, because that stuff runs for hundreds of years without problems.
Right.
I want that. No kidding.
And
Never
like
breaks
not been
down.
used forever, and yet way cleaner than the escalators in the DC area, at least.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been running for years.
That too.
Never breaking down. I'm like, geez,
Which also can't be said about the stuff in the DC metro area. Yeah, like for a subway system or underground sort of system, and that was a well-built escalator.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff I read on the internet about this movie and talking about, was it about class? Was it about race? Was it about, but they were trying to attribute things to the movie that maybe weren't really part of it. But I don't know. That's just somebody's own thoughts, I guess. So
Yeah.
Wasn't the filmmaker.
Okay. Though the filmmaker's comments are out there. So not usually my kind of movie either. There's a cooking, and Robin didn't have to admit I helped. Did you help, Carrie? Is Robin good now?
No, I'm not good. I actually want to chime in for 1 second. I think that I would actually watch this film again. Now now don't forget I teach with Get Out, so I've seen it a million trillion times.
And you've seen us once, right? Just the once?
Once and a half.
Once and a half.
Me too.
Just so
That's how you
the second
count.
time was just
That's
the
how you
left
count when
half
you-
or
No, I watched the front half.
front half. Okay.
Oh, I watched the back half.
Well,
See,
we'll put the
so-
two of you
Second
together
time.
then.
We've seen it.
It's like you're
I watched the
doppelgangers
movie
of each
once,
other.
And I watched the back half a second time.
Yeah.
That's just perfect.
Well, nice back half there.
Well,
Yeah.
wasn't gonna
Go ahead,
there.
Robin. Oh, I was. Go ahead.
You went there. So here's the thing. I actually think it's more about nature versus nurture. And if you think of it in that way, it's kind of brilliant. So if I think of it in that way, I can suspend disbelief and let all of the, they set this up as, I don't know what the first sentence was. The United States has this many million miles or whatever of tunnels, right? Sort of setting you up for,
Yep.
we're engaging you in a world you may or may not know very much about. Thereby, by that single sentence, you're supposed to then just go, oh, well, sure, anything can happen because I didn't learn that in school. So, right, that was it. And I fault him a little bit on that, and then I fault him a lot on pacing, which I want to talk about. And usually I leave that to the realm of my son, who complains about pacing with absolutely everything he watches.
Thank
But
you.
in this,
Thank you.
we want to talk about pacing.
That way somebody else is like, hopefully he's more finicky about pacing than I am, so that Lou will give me a break. I'm a
Lou,
I'm
you
a bit
gotta
of a
admit, the
pacing snob.
Oh yeah, no, I liked the movie. I had a lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, let's get to the pacing later, but sticking with the kind of the themes and such. Lou, you pointed out that on the internet, there's been a lot of different themes attributed to it. And then you brought up the theme of
Nature
versus nurture, which I think the very ending of the movie, that final spoiler,
Sure.
really supports that quite a bit. Almost definitively, like it doesn't, if you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't even really leave a question about it at the end of the movie, I don't think.
Right. Right.
And then videos I've seen from Jordan Peele online, it talks about Well, he talks first about how the idea of the doppelganger as a villain in horror movies and different things like that, whether it be, he cited an Alfred Hitchcock movie, he cited some other movies. That's something that's always fascinated him because it kind of, again, it talks about the duality of human nature and things like that. And I kind of see a lot of that in this movie, except I didn't really see that there was necessarily a struggle. When you talk about the duality of man, you're talking about, and I say man as in mankind. I know that, it's 2020 and I'm using the old school label for that phrase. But when you talk about the duality of human nature, you're talking about an individual struggling with their instinctual selfishness versus their need to participate in a larger community and to make sacrifices for the sake of the community. You're talking about wanting to be good, but then secretly also kind of wanting to be selfish, which is typically something that ends up being bad at the same time. And so you're caught in that struggle. And here, the struggle is far more literal. Yeah, there's no internal struggle with any of the characters.
No, not at all.
Right.
This is far more literal.
Right.
This is, how you turn out as a human is either by your internal nature makeup or the environment that surrounds you.
Right.
And this movie left us with no doubts, zero doubts about the director's stance on that.
So here's what I want to know. Like in this other world, we're going to talk spoilers here. Okay. So if you haven't seen it, this is a great time to duck out. The general premise of the film, to sum it up in a nutshell, these people go on this vacation and they find out that there's another copy of themselves that are kind of all like twisted and almost like out of a horror movie because it's a horror movie. Then they find out that it's actually everybody on Earth has a doppelganger who's been basically living underground, and now they're rising back up to come up into the sunshine and say, hey, this is our world too. And it does not go well because they're like psychotic and they kill people. I want to know, is there like, was there a Hitler underground that was walking around like, mopping the floor for people? Oh, let me get the door for you and stuff. Was there a Donald Trump who was like handing food out to people? Like if you're good above and you're bad below, well, is it the opposite too? If you're bad above, is there like a really good person underground?
Yeah, no. We met the architect of all of this.
Huh?
We met her. Well, in this particular side of the country, right? She didn't
create it. Right. She was
she wasn't the one.
Right. And they talked about the fact it was actually engineered.
It was there. Yeah.
Yeah. She was the person who basically led the revolt, as we find out at the end of the movie. But what I'm saying, though, is like if it's supposed to be a mirror thing. Right. So you have the people who like have decent lives up above and are not violent and don't kill people. And then you have the people below who are shadows of them who do. Is it the opposite, too? If you have a serial killer that's up above, is there like a really nice, benevolent person who's the shadow? I don't know. Probably not, but
didn't even watch it for that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, see, and I had a problem with the whole what was set up and when would this happen and going forward, because we get the impression that this happened a long time ago and they've been left to their own devices, right? Because they're surviving off the rabbits.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but they are.
Well, because rabbits multiply so quickly that they're able to keep that food source going.
Okay. But there's no one there to run the food source for them. So it's like just happening naturally, I guess. I'm supposed to believe that the tethers underground were having kids and the same exact kid that the person above had and grew up the same way. And, you see where I'm going? It's just
hashtag supernatural, Lou.
Yeah, I guess. But
And this is why I don't like supernatural
to...
stories, because you kind of have to just roll your eyes and say, "Oh, because magic."
But
No.
I do that with some of those, and I can understand. But they weren't talking about magic. They were talking about this is what we did. It was created.
But if you're talking about the soul being occupying two bodies, though, there is a factor there that is being portrayed as if it is supernatural.
Yeah,
So it's almost as if the initial whoever did this unleashed an evolution, a thing that evolution took over.
Right. It's the cabin in the woods thing.
Yeah, it was a constant splitting of each soul that was born.
Right.
So that is why in this listing of the girl did this, then the shadow was forced to do this. Right. Because you heard it in this very long speech, which then was supposed to help you understand that this was an esoteric evolutionary moment and not a continual engineering. Right. And these people underground were these tethers or shadows. I think they kept referring to them as shadows. Were not helpless at all. They were just
They were
just
basic. Like they functioned.
Yeah.
They just lived in a microcosm and knew how to function within that microcosm, and that was it.
So my big question was, why couldn't they just walk up the stairs? There was a part for me that I couldn't suspend because I didn't understand why they couldn't just go outside.
So I think that there are some connections that weren't really well explained in the movie. So as you're seeing the flashback of the main character as a little girl walking around down there. So again, major spoilers coming up here. So as you watch her walking around in the underground, and there's a carnival up above, and then down below, the same people are reenacting the same scenes, but they're shadow versions that people are doing upstairs in the carnival. So you have people packed in a hallway, like rocking to and fro as up above people are going around a roller coaster. There is some sort of a physical tether. Well, not a physical, we'll call it a telekinetic tether. That has some sort of effect on their physical bodies, even though it's not a physical, literal connection between the two. But whatever the people are going through up above, there's a similar physical thing happening to them down below. Also, likewise, you see the son. It seems like he is more closely tethered to his shadow than the mother or the father are. And I didn't really, by the point I figured this out in the movie, I didn't really go back to look at the daughter character. But so he steps backward and the shadow steps backward, and they keep stepping backward further. And the shadow son ends up stepping into a bunch of flames and burning to death.
Yeah, it's almost like the shadow was compelled to do whatever his counterpart was doing.
Right. And I wonder if there's not a little bit of a closer tether there too for the kids, because the mother actually is the shadow.
Right.
And then had a child with a non-shadow, a human. And so now you have kind of a hybrid child. And then there could be, and maybe the shadow is a bit hybrid-y too. And so that connection is more literal, where if I'm stepping backward, you end up stepping backward. Like if we somehow have like a moment where we kind of like lock eyes and we connect, you know what I mean? Like there's a different level of connection there, and maybe it's because they're hybrid.
But that's the other thing too, because that whole tether mirroring thing didn't happen all the time.
Right.
True.
You know, so it's like we had that flashback scene where we went through her as a little girl, where she was walking around at the carnival or the pier, whatever it was, and then you had the tether walking around down below, like you mentioned, Eric, and the same kind of things happening, just not in the same environment. But then half the time they don't act the same way. So I'm like, what? Okay, so if they're a tether and they're only doing what their person up top does, how would they revolt and come out of there and do what they did? I mean, there was so many inconsistencies, I think, with the way the story was told.
They couldn't,
that it kind of broke things.
So they couldn't come out up top until Lupita Nyong'o's character, who was the human who ended up getting trapped down there as a little girl. They did a reversal. She led them up. She had enough human in her that maybe she taught them how to kind of break out of that mental control enough and gain enough control of themselves. Like she basically trained them how to become more alpha.
Yeah,
she did.
Yes.
But that was the big point for me, and that's where I would probably watch this again to try and figure this out. She was of, I guess, I don't know where the whole vocal thing came in, because when she was dragged underground, she was old enough to remember to retain her humanity.
Right, but you're supposed to believe that her vocal cords were damaged because her tether grabbed her by the throat and damaged her vocal cords. She couldn't talk. She could only grunt, and she had to relearn how to talk.
Oh,
again.
I didn't even figure that out.
That was what was supposed to be going on.
I feel stupid now.
I mean, I wasn't trying to figure it out myself, but
it
makes
does.
sense after you've read some stuff online. And that's why she kind of fit in down there at first, I suppose, and then regained it. But I mean, I get the whole nature versus nurture thing, and I think it's a really powerful part of the story. And I enjoyed that. But when you try to make these stories so complicated with this kind of stuff, and it doesn't quite work, it kind of breaks in my mind.
And that is something about movies. You can have a movie that is so deep and has so much going on that it can be just an incredible masterpiece of thought and messaging and whatever else. But if people don't understand the message, then the message isn't getting communicated. So what's the point? Like, I think about movies like Prometheus. There was a lot, I think, going on under the surface of that movie, but nobody could figure out what the heck any of it was. And people ended up hating the movie. In part, I think, because expectations weren't met. But so this is like another one of those. The only way in which I think this movie is really substantially meaningful is in the context of nature versus nurture. I think that is a really powerful conflict in this movie. The duality of self, and like even when she goes into that little funhouse thing up above it, it says "find yourself." I'm like, okay, that's like on the second viewing, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty heavy handed now. Okay, I get it. It's kind of on the nose. But I think all of these other themes just don't work, whether it's the us versus them, the class issue, the race. I didn't really feel like there was a lot of race issue here, really. Like there wasn't Get Out. Get Out, it was very much a topic. And here I think we were looking at a different topic. But I think the only topic that really fits this in a compelling way is the nature versus nurture, which I didn't pick up on. Like I knew there's something there there is a conflict, and it is a worthy conflict, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but yeah, that makes sense.
Well, don't forget, I was born an educator, and in education, we talk about this all the time. There are people who are born to be teachers and people who can be trained to be teachers, but we always talk about being born a teacher. And that whole conflict really guides a lot of what we do in education. It's the Rousseauian conflict, right? The children in front of you, are you actually having an impact?
Right.
Or, are they truly blank slates for to be written on? Or is there some sort of thing inside them that you are either compelling to come out or, sort of stay in? And so we talk about that a lot in education. And I'm pretty sure if anybody who's ever heard me speak on this podcast before, where I'm going to land on this subject. It's just, so that's why it's always at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, she lost me at Rousseauian. I'm glad she explained the rest of it, because I'm like, sure. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so For me though, I was glad it wasn't horror, so I might have a shot of sleeping
Right.
tonight. But I was also compelled. There was a compelling thing. Oftentimes when I walk with trepidation into a movie that we all decide on, I I I sort of watch it and then I go back to it and then I go back to it. Here, I found myself watching it and being distracted from the things I should have been doing. And all of a sudden it was like, I must talk about this movie tonight. So there is a compelling thing and I can't quite put my finger on it. And it's not because I have come to appreciate the director
Hmm.
because that was not the reason that compelled me to watch it. And I still am a little puzzled by what was driving me to put aside everything I should have been doing, one of which was like feed my dog. It's a good thing I have a partner in life here. Um,
Poor
and
dogs.
so
We
I'm
here at
sort of
Random
still
Chatter do not
intrigued
support
by that.
dog abuse. Just
No,
want to
no,
give
we
that
don't. No, we
disclosure
don't.
out like right now. Get that disclaimer out of the way. Feed your dogs,
But
ladies
so
and gentlemen, and everybody else
feed your
out there. Feed
dogs.
your dogs.
But I don't know if you two felt that in this movie, and because I still haven't figured it out.
I feel like I felt there was something there, and I felt like I had a hard time putting my finger on it. But then if a lot of people feel that way, how good of a job did the director do at communicating the message of the film? And yet, you've also got to balance that with not wanting to have to spoon feed everybody. You want to make people think about the message. You don't want to just say, hey, the movie's about this. Good people are good, bad people are bad. Don't be bad. Like you don't want to just spoon feed it.
That wasn't it. Nah, that
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah. I'm not saying this movie was, but I'm saying like you don't want to come out and do something like that as a filmmaker. You want to present things to make people think and come to their own. What question he wanted you to ask or what conclusion he wanted you to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not just me, and if it's also Lou, and it's also Robin, and it's also half the internet, it makes me wonder. I love Jordan Peele. I think he's a brilliant director, but did he succeed here? Now, I felt more comfortable with it a second viewing than I did the first, because of course it's like The Sixth Sense. Like you're watching characters that you know are a little bit different. But then to go back to the pacing thing, a lot of it was them just trying to get through the night. So
I have to say, I wanted to care about the characters because so I went into this with my director's vision
mhm.
on. I liked Get Out. Get Out made me care about the
Yeah.
characters. Um, and I was hoping he was going to do that here. So I went into this with sort of like, oh my God, I'm going to care about all these characters. And oh my God, it's horror. And oh gracious, what have they done to me now? They being my co host. Um, and so, but I was kind of surprised that I actually didn't care about any of these characters. And so it wasn't the characterization that drove me to keep watching.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys care about these characters?
A little bit.
No,
I
no, I don't think I
did a little bit.
No, Lou? No?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought Lupita Nyong'o's character was good, and I kind of cared for her. I wanted her to succeed in win, if you want to call it that. The little boy, no, not so much. I mean, it's like he didn't really do anything for me that made me say, "Oh my God, save the boy." No. I'm like, okay. When he got taken, I'm like, oh.
That was a mechanism to get the mother involved.
Mm.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
you didn't feel for him. You just knew that was moving the plot along for the mother.
Right.
But how brilliant is this? Jordan Peele just made Lou care about the monster in this film and not care about the hero.
Did you care about the monster?
Yeah, but
Yeah, he did. If he's
no, I
well,
didn't know
I
it
don't
was a
know
mon-
which Lupito. I don't know which.
I didn't know it was the monster. So, and that
Right.
was the
But
twist, right? So we're not supposed to know it's the monster the whole
But
time
she's
along.
not actually the monster, though.
But she's not
Right.
the monster. Yeah, I mean,
She
she
is.
was the
No.
tether,
What makes you a monster?
but
What you do, arguably, and
she grew out of
Right.
being the monster, right?
the human
nature of
became
Are you
the
sure?
monster. The tether became the
You sure
normal,
you
functional
watched?
person.
Are you sure you watched that last
Yeah.
scene? The
Yeah.
death stare between the mother and the son was the thing that was like,
I don't think it was a
holy.
death stare. I think it was a realization, and some people believe that the son was the tether as well. That he was swapped out in that scene underground.
No, it couldn't have been
I
because
don't know if I believe
his
that or
face
not.
was scarred. The shadow's face was all scarred up.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But there was some talk about whether or not he was the tether from before, or how that went when
Well,
that
he
switch
was called
happened.
the monster.
Yeah.
He was called. No, was he called the
They
monster?
actually had names.
Was it
Each one of the
girl or
shadows
boy?
had actual first names assigned to them if you look at the credits.
Hmm.
Yes, Tex was his.
And they're written
Tex
in
was
red,
his first
so it's
name.
kind of cool.
What's that?
They're written in
Yeah.
red, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So her name was Red, and then the boy's name was Tex. But I don't. Well, now Lou, you're making me wonder. But the way the boy stared at her in the front seat of the car as she was driving away from all of this, and we know now that she is the monster.
I
The
disagree
way
with that.
he was.
Yeah, I have a problem with it with calling her
She's
the
the
monster
shadow.
too, because she's the shadow, she's the tether, she's the person from underground that grew up with a family on the surface, taught and nurtured and trained as a human, and she wasn't what she was.
So the smile was a little bit confusing,
Scary.
and I think it was in part meant to reinforce to the audience that this was the shadow and this was not the human. But she still rescued her family. She was still escaping the chaos. She was still like she won. I think the smile was about the fact that she won. She got out of that mess. In fact, she was the only one that really succeeded at doing it. And I guess if you want to call that selfish, maybe she's a little bit of a monster, but like she's not a monster. She's not going to go on some homicidal rampage as soon as they get to the next town or something. She is the normal character, the normal, we'll call it a person. Whereas the human who grew up underground is still the monster. She's the one running around stabbing people with scissors. So I don't see that the woman who drove off in the ambulance is, quote, a monster if you use monster to define either the intentions or the actions of a character.
Now, hang on here. Here's where we're going to honestly disagree, folks. Everybody who has wanted us to disagree.
Here we go.
Here it is. I got to say that if she trapped the human underground, so if somehow there's some sort of psychic barrier that kept them from just walking away from their underground confinement, she trapped her underground. And so the human was freeing an entire race of individuals from this psychic bondage that humans inflicted upon them.
So was the villain a hero?
Who is more of a hero? Who is more of a hero than the one that was trapped underground, who has now suddenly freed every doppelganger, if we believe this is where it's going?
Right, but she was freeing them to create havoc and destruction
Is
and
the
mayhem.
destruction of the opposition, does that justify?
It, in this
It doesn't
case,
make
if
you a
humans
hero.
were the one who created this psychic split on the soul level, then maybe what is the phrase from Wrath of Khan? Let loose and something the
Live long and prosper.
havoc of war. No, like let it happen,
No, let's
right?
flip the dogs of war. Yeah.
Let's slip the dogs of war, right? So, and we don't know that they all have to kill their folks. We know that this was happening in this particular time and place. But don't forget, Hands Across America was the mantra of the human trapped underground.
If you watch as the ambulance drives off into the distance and the camera pans across, there are helicopters flying around, big smoking ruins at various different places all through.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, I saw that.
I don't think it was isolated to just this area. And what we saw were people coming up from underground and just slaughtering. So is it a hero who unleashes that on everybody? Like, so, and I mean that is a legitimate question.
She's a flawed,
because
maybe she is got that flaw.
I mean, they're trapped and they're victims and they deserve to be released, but that doesn't mean that the other people deserve to be slaughtered. So there's a question there. What is the right thing to do? And if the result in freeing all of these people is basically the decimation of humanity, is that the right thing to do? I mean, obviously the correct answer is they all need counseling. But like, really, you've got two extremes. You either keep them caged up, in which case that's a torturous victimization, or you let them loose, in which it's genocide, global genocide.
Don't
so
forget, they refer to them as
there's
puppets.
no good solution. Right.
So if you replace puppets with slaves, then this becomes a movie based on
So
race.
I was thinking about the slave thing, but here's where I don't, because I was just about to use that word and I thought, does it fit? I don't think it fits. And the reason is because these people who are the shadows. So number one, they have direct mirrors of themselves above ground and below ground. So there really is kind of a duality of self-nature to their existence, number one. Number two, they are not being used as someone's property. And I want to make that clarification, because there's also a point at which if you call it slavery and it's not, it diminishes actual slavery that actually happened, that, you know, is an actual real world tragedy. I think that this doesn't qualify as slavery because they were not slaves. They were victims. They were prisoners. I think prisoners might be a better term to use. They were not being used for labor. They did not have an owner who, you know, directed them in what to do. They weren't being treated as property. So there is an important distinction there, I think, where defining the situation as slavery doesn't work.
So it's the word puppet that, because they were actually described by...
Yeah, they were. I mean, in a sense, if you go back to that telekinetic puppets. Tether, they were puppets. Again, you look at the roller coaster example.
Puppets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a victimization. That's not. There was no intentional subjugation actively happening of these people. Whoever did the experiment, obviously they're evil. They messed it up, and apparently the experiment was abandoned. But like, what's going on now? Mm-hmm. There's no intentional subjugation going on.
That's true. All right. I retract.
And to be fair, there's not even a dismissive, apathetic subjugation going on. People just don't know those shadows exist. There's no knowledge of them in the above world.
Right. The only person who had knowledge of them was
who had suppressed those memories. She didn't, as the movie went on, she didn't remember what was going. She didn't remember any of that. Mm-hmm. She wanted to not go to the beach.
Yeah, but she didn't know why. Right.
And she was confused as she was encountering what she thought was her shadow. and had to have things explained to her, even when everybody, and it wasn't an act either, because even when everybody else was out of the room and it was just the two of them, there was still that exposition going on. So she's the only one who could have known and had repressed it. So I don't think that, and that's a really important and good question here. I don't think slavery is an accurate descriptor of this group and what's going on with them. And so therefore, that's yet another reason why I don't think this is analogous to a race sort of message or situation. I think it's about something else. Again, I keep going back to what you said, which I did not even see until you mentioned it, the nature versus nurture thing. I really think that is the strongest thematic argument in this movie. With the duality of self secondary to that, but I think it doesn't really say anything about it, and it doesn't introduce any questions about it.
Yeah, because there's no, I guess there's no flaw on each human's part. I want to say humans because that's how they refer to them.
Got to call them something.
In terms of not recognizing that there is something below that they're not acknowledging.
If people knew there was something below, many somebodies would have tried to do something about it. Would they have done the right thing? We don't know. But if there was an awareness that all these people were down there and basically trapped, there would have been some sort of a movement to try to repair that situation. But nobody knew.
Well, hands across America, of course.
I don't know. I was around in the 80s, and I don't remember any of that actually being a part of that.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, the underground
hands
people.
America? No, not the underground.
Well, that's what
people.
I'm saying.
No, I remember hands.
Yeah, I remember it too. I just don't remember anything about like orange jumpsuit wearing scissor stabby people.
They were all over the
Were
place.
they? Maybe those in a different section
mainly out in the Midwest. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. See, I was in Michigan. Maybe it was like the Indiana.
Well, maybe
Chicago.
In addition to that whole escalator thing I talked about before, where they get the jumpsuits, where they get the scissors. I mean, that's a lot of jumpsuits to get.
It's a lot of scissors.
We couldn't even get face masks when COVID happened. These guys all have jumpsuits, and there's nobody running the show down there.
And the rabbits are just.
I want to know where the rabbit poop is.
I want to know what the rabbits eat.
That is the cleanest. That's the cleanest area with rabbits that I've ever seen.
Well, they had nothing to do all day except clean. True. Again, they took care of their microcosm.
But what their above ground people are doing, they can't do anything.
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Yeah. So where are we? I really feel like.
I feel like I like it, but I feel like it had a lot of issues.
Yeah. So I feel like at the end of this, we're all going to be like, so did we actually like this movie? I feel like this is the first movie we've actually talked through and kind of shifted.
Did we?
Our positions ish. Because now I'm not thinking it was that great of a movie.
Well, I mean, I know I liked it, but I know it had issues, and I'm like, man, it's like I wish this guy did a better job with this movie.
So I'll take that question, Robin. I'll take it first, so you guys have a moment to think about it. I walked into this feeling like the movie had something to say, but it was mostly kind of a psychological thriller horror movie, which I think it succeeded at that. I didn't quite know what it was trying to say. After this discussion, I feel more enlightened. I feel like I have a better idea of what the movie was probably trying to say, or might have been trying to say. I'm walking out of this discussion feeling like the movie did have something to say, and it was basically a psychological thriller sort of horror movie, which it succeeded at. So like I'm walking away liking it just as much as I did when I walked into it. I feel like after discussing it with you guys, I understand it a little bit better. And I have a better appreciation for what the message probably was and what some of that perspective was. But I still feel like this movie was mostly a chase scene with a plot and less story than it had plot. Like it had a plot and then it had even less story than that. So there is story there, and the story is interesting. This movie, I don't feel, is as much about the story. I think this movie is just about having a good, fun horror movie that is creepy and weird. And if you're gonna do a movie, you can have it be a guy with a hockey mask running around in the woods, chopping people with the machete, or you can have some kind of substance to it. And this movie had substance. So as far as a horror movie goes, it was better by far, in my opinion, than the average horror movie, because there was a message. It wasn't a strong message, but there was a message. There was a theme of conflict. It was interesting. It was something we haven't seen before. It was something new. It was a different type of villain, the doppelganger thing. And the presentation of the doppelganger was something that we haven't seen at least in a really long time, and certainly not over and over and over again. So I have a lot of appreciation for this movie as a horror movie. As some sort of a social commentary like Get Out was, it's just not there. It's just, I don't think it was necessarily meant to be. I think this movie was meant to be a fun horror movie that wasn't stupid and was, in fact, instead smart, if not super meaningful, but it was smart and clever. And to me, it succeeded at that. Lou's points notwithstanding about the suspension of disbelief, there was a lot of suspension of disbelief. But what horror movie has there not been? Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, just on and on and on. I mean, the most classic horror movies of all time, you really have to just throw your disbelief right out. Leave it out in the parking lot when you go into the theater.
No. I mean, this one I think was just so complicated in the way he tried to create this world, and I just don't think the world building worked. I mean, and I think that's where the premise of the movie kind of falls down. If your world building doesn't work for the world you're creating to have your story set in, then your whole story falls apart. I mean, if we can't believe that setting, it's
I agree,
tough.
But if they had been wearing rags instead of jumpsuits, that would have been a small contributing fix. If Lupita Nyong'o's character and maybe the father, they had scissors, maybe they found them alongside of the road as they're walking up to the house early on in the movie. I don't know where they got them from, but they got them from somewhere, whatever. And everybody else just used like shivs or pieces of metal that had broken off of something, not the escalator, because I mean, that escalator, top notch, but falling off as something else. If they had instead just replaced the clothing with rags, I don't remember seeing other people with scissors. There was a lot of stabbing going on, but I don't think we ever actually.
They all had. Scissors.
All have scissors.
Yeah, there were other scissors around.
Every character. Yep, okay, yep. So if they had given him something else instead, to me, the world building still would have worked, and that was just a poor directorial choice. Again, all due respect to Jordan Peele, I think generally speaking, the movie was really well directed, but I think that maybe it was a writing choice, not a directing choice. I don't know, but I think he should have stepped in and said, "Nah, that's going to be. There are too many questions there. How did that work? Let's throw him in some rags or burlap sacks or something." Yeah. That would have worked, though, right? Like those were.
It would have made it more believable, but it's not just that made it unbelievable for me. It's the whole thing of, okay, every single person is a doppelganger down below, the entire world, and you think about those kind of numbers in tunnels,
7 billion people.
It just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work. So when I watched the movie without thinking about it, I had a good time. It was a good movie.
Okay.
It was enjoyable. I was freaked out in the parts I was supposed to be freaked out in. I was shocked at the parts I was supposed to be shocked by, and I thought it was a very well done horror movie. But when I try to really look at it for the world building and what he was trying to tell and the setting he was in, I'm like, no. And then it starts to break down, because now we're pulling back the curtain and I'm seeing the, you know, who Oz was, and it's
Right.
like, no, that's not okay. Now it's just this little guy in a chair back there trying to run things. It's just no.
Okay.
So I guess for me, that part of it breaks down and makes it not as good of a movie as I wanted it to be.
Maybe they got all of the scissors from the underground factory that the guy who started this experiment created to furnish them all with some sort of clothing, aka the jumpsuits. Because you need a lot of scissors to.
They also had that one glove. I mean, come on.
The
Well,
one.
I mean,
Lou, are we suspending disbelief now about our co-host here? Or
no, that
is this,
disbelief
like,
has always been there.
what's happening? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's a
Just
constant
checking.
disbelief. That
Just
never gets
checking.
suspended.
So now after talking to you guys, I don't know that I like the movie.
Wow, we broke the movie for Robin.
You broke it.
Robin. We broke Robin.
Okay, so I think it boils down to
broke
whether or
it.
not you can suspend your disbelief. And I agree with you. And I did think about that at one point. Okay, yeah, it's great that that location has an underground setting, but what about, like, I don't know, Montana or something where they don't have like underground subways and stuff? Or what about places where the rail systems are above ground and they don't really have a lot of tunnels? I mean, I understand some places do, New York City, Chicago, etc.
What about New Orleans, where they really can't dig
Because it's underwater. Yeah. So, Disney World. You know all those service tunnels underneath the theme park?
That's where they are.
You want to know why all those characters dress up in costumes? That
There you
must
go.
be it.
That works.
Wow. That must be why the one in California is still closed, is because they found out that. Anyway, if you can suspend the disbelief, I think that this movie works. If you can't, it doesn't. And that 7 billion, what is it, 7.4 billion or something we're up to now? Population of the world. If,
Could be.
Carrie, they don't have tornado shelters in Montana. Yeah, but they're little tiny ones. And people restock them with food and they check on them to make sure that they're. I don't think people go out in their backyard and open up their door and all of a sudden there's like a copy of their family in a little hole in the ground. Like it. That's a good question. I mean, it's a fair
Thank
question,
you.
but
Now I can't go outside. Really? Really? You guys?
What?
I am making you watch
how
an Abbott and
how did
Costello
that
movie
happen?
this
What does that have to do
Halloween.
with anything? Like, how did I break that?
Just saying.
How?
broke it.
How? Like, I'm serious. What is that? You're not in Montana and you don't have a tornado shelter.
I do have a cellar.
Which you visited and checked, and there's no duplicate of you and Tim or
Well,
your
not
dogs there.
now. I haven't been down there in the last 15 minutes.
These people have been down there
Never
for
going
like an
down there
entire
again.
generation. They would have to have been down there as long as you've been alive.
I'm saying I'm never going down
And here's
there
another
again.
question.
Thank you.
I'm going to further break
Inform
this
my
for the
husband.
people who can't suspend their disbelief. So, they grew up there and then she moved. So let's say she moves to Chicago, Lupita Nyong'o's character. Does her doppelganger also move? Like if she goes down underground in Chicago, then
She'd have to,
she
right?
just doesn't have a
Yeah.
doppelganger or something. Like people move, especially in big cities, they move all the time.
This is not a physical connection. This is an ethereal connection. This is a soul connection.
But what happens to the bodies of the people? So like if I grew up in Chicago and then I spent the rest of my life in Miami, I'm in no danger of my doppelganger killing me. We'll never meet.
No, you are, because it's an ethereal connection. At some point, you, human, will be compelled without reason to go visit fill in the blank.
Okay.
Right? Just like the husband was compelled to continually visit this beach.
But
she didn't
they didn't
want to. He did.
continually visit it. And the kids were conceived
They had a vacation
somewhere
home there.
else.
Yeah, that's the ethereal connection.
But wouldn't that ethereal connection be at the place where the kids are conceived?
No, it's not a physical connection. It's
so
a
let's
soul
say
connection.
this movie didn't happen 6 generations later. Are those great grandkids going to be kids going to be compelled to go back to that beach where their great grandparents, like there's still people
Honestly,
migrate and move around. There's a way that breaks to me, I think.
It's called coincidence.
I'm with you, Lou.
Here's
Suspension
what
of
was
disbelief
never
on this one is tough, but if you can make it, I think the movie's okay. I think it's a good movie if you can suspend disbelief.
Well, if you don't look too closely, which then is it really a good movie or not? Yeah.
Here's what you do. If you wear glasses, you take your glasses off. After you've eaten some potato chips, and you just take your fingers and you smudge your glasses up and you put your glasses back on. Then you can't see things too clearly. You will get through the movie just fine. If you clean your lenses, though, you're screwed. Don't know what else to tell you.
I mean, there are worse movies you could see. So,
we're going to cover some of them.
If you had this on your list to watch it, because it's not a bad movie.
No, it's just not. But you have to. Yeah. If you haven't seen the movie, why are you still listening to us? Because we just like totally ruined it, the whole thing. I don't know. Okay, so
in the sequel, the kid kills the mother.
Robin, that got dark fast.
My soul doppelganger just told me that.
I think Robin is a shadow.
She could be. She could be.
Yeah.
Be careful. I know where you live.
How good is she with scissors, though? That's the real question.
The 64 cats. Well, protect them.
Oh, lose cats. Yeah, I got a dog that'll just lick you to 64. Death. And the other one will probably pee on your feet. So, all right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Movie Chatter. We need to decide what we're going to cover next.
What are we covering? Abbott and Costello?
So, does everybody have reasonable access to an Abbott and Costello horror movie?
No, I have a question. Serious question. Have we covered Invisible Man yet?
Yes.
No, we
the remake.
I didn't see it.
You're going to make me look this up again.
Well, I haven't seen it, so we couldn't have covered it unless you did it without me.
I have done it without you.
No, we didn't. No, we don't do that.
I remember discussing.
You're talking about the new one, right?
I remember discussing Invisible Man at length on a podcast.
Not on this one.
I don't think it was on this one. I know Tim has seen it.
Well, because I saw it. Just saying.
Well, yeah, no.
Sometimes we're in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
And you feel like that one's discussion worthy?
I actually do.
Okay.
Because Elizabeth Moss.
I will watch it because I wanted to see it. I heard it was good.
And it fits the season.
Okay, so I could say we should cover Scream because Neve Campbell and it fits the season. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying like there's got to be more than just like if you feel it's discussion worthy, then I say we do it because it's recent. It's something I think it's streaming on. Is it Amazon Prime that has it now or HBO Max? Some streaming service just picked it up recently.
I thought I saw it somewhere recently.
So it's just been acquired. If you guys feel, and then Lou, you can't speak to this because you haven't seen it yet. If Robin, if you want to choose it, let's go. I don't know how much I have to say about it, but a lot of times we go through that here on the show. And as someone starts delving deeper into something and bringing up points, then we all respond and we have points to contribute. Walking into it, I don't know that I have a lot of talking points. But
yeah, it's on HBO Max.
If you do, then by all means, let's.
Well, no.
Do it.
Do you guys have? It's not my turn.
Well, we're not really taking turns for Halloween.
I want to see the movie.
We're just collaboratively come up with stuff. We'll revert back to the taking turns thing when we're not doing a block of themed stuff. So. Because honestly, I don't really know that I have a lot of other. There are movies I want to see whether or not I want to include them on the list. I just haven't watched them yet. So The Hunt is one of them, in part because it's a recent Blumhouse film. It's done by Damon Lindelof. And he pointed out that there's some important social commentary there that some people just didn't get. And there was actually kind of a political movement to get the movie shut down. So I think there's some stuff there I want to look at. I don't know how great the movie is. And we did make that mistake that one time of deciding to cover a movie that none of the three of us had seen.
Yikes.
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
If hopefully this won't be an uncut gem.
Right. So I don't know. It was kind of fun to bash that movie, though. I think it made for a decent episode for us. But anyway, the point is, I do want to look at that. There was Fantasy Island that maybe not. And there were a couple of other things too, but I don't have anything necessarily that I can come up with that I've seen that we haven't covered that we should. And again, Invisible Man, I think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it, except I had some issues with the ending. And it's probably discussion worthy.
I love the ending. But Lou, what were you gonna say?
I don't know. I want to see the movie, so I'm voting yes for this.
You know, now that I mention it,
I don't want to give it away, but I think you're missing. I think you're missing an important contemporary twist on the flick. I do.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. We're gonna discuss The Invisible Man next episode. I want to throw this
the new one.
The one that just came out, Kate Moss. I do want to say this though, after having mentioned Scream, I actually kind of like Scream. And
I haven't seen it in years, but yeah, I remember it being good.
I wouldn't mind covering that one someday. I think it's a very underrated horror movie, and I think it kind of steps on a lot of tropes intentionally, and you know, I think there's some interesting things there.
Sure, we can do that after after.
All right, so there you go. Next episode, we are going to be doing The Invisible Man. So go home, do your homework.
The new one.
So let me explain something to Robin here, Lou. I don't know if you'll agree with me or not on this. I was never in any danger of mistaking it for the old one. Never. If it's black and white,
I watched the old one.
Not out of a stylistic choice, like when they released Logan in black and white, but if it was like originally black and white, probably not going to see it. If it was remade using a different name and had Nicolas Cage in it, probably not going to see it. Was it Nicolas Cage that was in? Or was it Kevin Bacon? Was it Hollow Man?
Hollow Man was
Kevin Bacon. Okay. Who, if you play 6 Degrees of Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. No, we're not.
Oh, trust me. I know we're not. I'll never see another movie again because they'll all somehow have a connection to Nicolas Cage, and I'm not doing that.
And I'm so doing that.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you for everybody who hung out in the chat room with us. We will be recording, actually, I think next Thursday again, because we were supposed to have done Tuesday this week. So we will be recording next Thursday on the YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/randomchatter or the other way around, randomchatter.com/YouTube, it will take you to our channel page. Please subscribe. If you watch any of the videos there, please like them. And once you go there, when we're streaming live, we're going to post the link in our Discord server, which you can get to by going to randomchatter.com/Discord. When we go live and we post the link, you could also just go to our page and you're going to see the uploads first. Click on videos and it'll be the first video right there. So we need to start posting on Twitter when we go live too. We need to get better about that. That's my fault.
That'd be good.
I need to be less anti-social networking. It's just social networking is such a bad place right now. Anyway, so that's how you can find us. We will be back Thursday night. Don't forget to check us out Sunday night as well. We're going to have Random Chatter and Echo Base starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which I think is still GMT -5. Movie Chatter will be 8:30 on Thursday. And that is it. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks to everybody in the chat room who hung out with us during this episode. Stick around for a few more videos if you're watching us on YouTube right now. And if you're listening to us on audio through randomchatter.com or wherever fine podcasts are sold, then stay tuned for more content coming soon. Take care, everybody.